I'm going to show you how I use my Monday.com setup to create a work queue board for my clients. Basically, they drop their requests into their board and prioritize them there, and I work on those as they come in. So I'll get started showing you the layout, and then we'll go through the workflow and the automations that happen, so you can set up your own workflow for clients to handle requests into your process. So let's get started. We're going to add a board to this, and we're going to say client request board. And I typically replace client with the name of my client. These are just tasks. I do make it shareable so I can invite external clients into my Monday.com account, specifically to the board, so they can work with me here. So let's go ahead and create it. And we land in the grid view. I like to go ahead and add my Kanban view because that's what I like to work in. I'll move this over here. We will need to go back to this board and change some of our statuses. So we're going to edit these labels, call these new requests. And we want to add a label for client review and one for client approved. And back to the Kanban, we'll arrange these just a little bit. Client review, client approved, and then done. Um, and this is the basic workflow. New requests land in the first list. I move items from the top into working on it. If anything becomes stuck, I drop it into stuck. When I finish, I move the task to client review. The client then lets me know they're happy with it by moving it to client approved. And then I officially move it to done, which frees me up to go get the next item off of the top of the new requests queue. I don't start a new work item until an item is done. That way, I only have one thread going at a time with a client. Clients can pay for multiple threads. In that case, I'd have two items that I'd be working on until they were done. So let's go through some of the automations on these items. Basically, I want to let a client know that I have started work, I have something that's stuck that needs their attention, something is ready for their review. Um, and that's the basis of how this works. So let's demonstrate the automation for new requests to set requested by. We actually need to edit the person to say requested by. We're going to go to the automations, and we're going to say when an item is created, assign the creator as the requested by. So we're using this template. Item created, assign the creator as requested by, create the automation. So that's the first one, and we want to see that work. So we're going to add a task. We'll call it test task one. And we'll move it up here. And that was me that created it. So I am the assigned requester. So, what I like to do is when I set up a client, I want to have them move a task through the process to demonstrate how it works. So I go into the task I've created and I drop in a description of the process that they will be using to show that they understand how this works. So basically, I have some boilerplate text that I say this card demonstrates how to submit a request and its flow through the work process. To submit a request, simply create a new card in the new request list. This will alert me to your request. Once I am available to begin work, I will move the top card in the new request list to the working on it list. You may arrange the order of the cards in the new request list at any time prior to me moving them into the working on it list. Just meaning they can adjust what they need first up until the time I start working on something. Once an item reaches the working on it status, its priority is fixed and it will be worked on until completed. When I have completed work on the card, I will move it to the client review list. This will notify you that it is ready for you to confirm everything is complete to your expectations. Once you have confirmed the work is complete, simply move the card to the approved list. This will notify me of your approval and free up my work queue to start work on the next card in the new requests list. Note, work in progress is limited to one request at a time. Work on an item is not complete until it is moved to the approved list. Therefore, it is important to move cards to the approved as soon as you've confirmed they meet your expectations, as no new work can begin until a card reaches that step. We will use this card to demonstrate this flow. It is currently in the client review state. Please move it to the approved state. This will confirm you've read these instructions and are now ready to begin using this board to submit new requests. So obviously I don't have it in the proper state because I'm going to show you how I build this out as I go. But that is the general instruction that I give to new clients as I set up their boards. So I highly recommend something along these lines for your clients to make sure they understand the flow and that you have a limited work in process queue. And until something completes that queue, you don't start on new items. So we'll close this one down. What I also like to do is just let folks know when I've started work on an item. So we'll go into the automations. We'll create a new automation. Status changes to working on it. We'll say notify. And we'll just say hi. And I like to put the person's name in there and let them know the task. Uh, your request has been started. Uh, if any questions come up during update this card to communicate to you. And that's as simple as that. So we're done with that one, and it's going to be the people requested by column. So we'll create that automation. So we'll see that run here. I'm going to move it to working on it. That'll fire off the automation, send a notification. I've got it up here in my list. It's right here. Sorry, it's in my this your request has been started. If any questions come up, I'll update this card to communicate them with you. So notifications are there, and they'll get an email notification with the same if they've set up their email to receive those updates. So we'll go back to the Kanban, and we'll talk about what happens if something gets stuck. So I added an automation to say status changes to stuck. We'll send a notification. There's issue with your request. See the information in the updates on the card to help resolve. And I like to let them know important work cannot proceed until this issue is resolved. Since it is important to resolve this quickly, there is no new items can be started until this request has been completed. I just like to remind them of the flow. If an item is stuck, we don't pivot to something else. We fix the problem and move this one on through the process until it's done. That just keeps your work queues clean and keeps everything from getting really muddy. A client can always opt to cancel an item from the work queue, but they do that with full disclosure that if they need this again, it'll have to start at the beginning. So we're going to do done. We're going to call this requested by, create the automation, and we'll move that to stuck. That triggers the automation. I got a notification about it. There's an issue with my request. Okay, we go back and forth. We get that resolved. It goes back to working on it. I get a notification that it is now back in the working on it state. So I finish this up and I move it to client review. But we want to go ahead and set up that automation. Status. Client review will notify the requester. And I have another template that I use for these items. And I just make sure these fields match up. Let's see that. So basically, I say, hey, requester, your request, and remind them what it is, has reached the client review status. Please confirm that all work meets your expectations. Once you're satisfied, please move the request to the approved list. Once approved, this will free up my work queue to begin work on the next item in the new requests list. Important. Work is not complete on a request until it reaches the approved list. Therefore, new requests will not start until the current request has been moved to the approved list. Again, just reminding them of the process and keeping them accountable to come in and finish up their end of the review to make sure it meets their expectations, and then I move on to the next item. Don't start new items until the previous item is done and satisfied and approved by the client. That just keeps everything clean, keeps you from running around chasing 10 different threads of work. Begin a task, work a task, finish a task, move on to the next task. So that's good. That will go to the requester, create the automation. We're happy there. We'll see that work. Automation runs. I get a notification. It's moved to the client review state. Then I have an automation that status changes to client approved. This is going to notify me that everything is done. The client's happy. I can move on to the next. So I say, hey, the item in board. And this is because I have multiple clients and I want to remember which one's which. Has been approved by please proceed to the next item in perfect. Done. And that comes to me. I create this automation. Good. I move that to client approved. That'll fire the automation. I get the notification. I'm happy about that. I move it to done. And then I go back to the new requests column and add the item to working on it. Again, clients can move this priority list around until I grab the top item and put it in the working on it column. So they are free to adjust their priority as they see fit up until the time I start work. So that's the workflow. That's how I handle requests. That's how I handle work in process, making sure that everything flows nicely, that I don't get overwhelmed with incomplete tasks, that clients understand their role in this process, and that things work smoothly. Um, this usually takes me prodding a client the first time to get things through the system. Just so because they need to get familiar with how this works. But after that, it's very clean, very smooth. Everything goes into the board the way it should. I work items to completion, and everyone is on the same page throughout the request process. So, if you find this useful, I'd love it if you'd hit the like button, subscribe for future updates, and let me know in the comments any challenges you've run into managing client work for your business. If you want to get Monday.com set up and running, hit the affiliate link in the description. That helps me out, earns me a little bit of commission, but it's no additional cost to you. I'd love to help you get your own Monday.com board set up. So if you need a little bit of assistance with that, feel free to reach out to me via my contact form linked in the description, and I'll be happy to help answer any questions that you have. See you in the next one.